everyone, welcome to today's episode of Global Photography Forum. Now, imagine winning a grand prize of the Hipa Awards, which are the world's biggest prize money for the best photography that they find world round. We have a wonderful guest, Jasmine, who has won the Hipa Awards. Now, Jasmine is actually based in Australia, and she does a lot of whale-based ocean tours and photography workshops. So guys, if you fancy winning next year's prize, maybe she's a person to call. Jasmine, how are you?
I'm really well, thank you.
That's grand.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for accepting the invitation on such short notice. We are extremely honored to actually have you here. So many congratulations, obviously, on my part and from everybody else who's watching. How are you feeling right now? The butterflies going off all over?
Yes, definitely. I'm very elated. It still hasn't quite sunk in yet. It's been a complete whirlwind since they made the announcement on Sunday night. I didn't think it would be such a popular news event for people. Yeah.
Well, yes. I mean, like we said, it's the biggest worldwide prize you can ever probably win. So it's a big deal, and I'm not surprised. I mean, just looking at your images, I've just gotten playing about here, and we'll just put some on the screen. Your work just deserves it on its own anyway. It's absolutely phenomenal. I really do envy people who can actually do work like this. And there's a few reasons. There's one, because I'm scared of open waters and deep waters. How do you feel about doing this? How did you actually get into this?
Well, I really loved scuba diving to start with. I do actually have a little bit of a fear. I guess can get a bit claustrophobic sometimes, but just the thought of having to see something completely amazing under the water just makes that all go away. And it's like that eagerness to want to see what's happening under there, because I guess everything underneath there is so unrepeatable that it's just magic, and it's just such a privilege to be able to see it that one time. And that excitement really just keeps me motivated to be wanting to dive over and over again.
Yeah. I guess that slight fear element is what actually brings on the whole excitement at the same time. That's what makes it worth it, doesn't it? Otherwise,
yes.
It's like it just becomes the norm, and it's not really what
yes,
you do.
That's right.
So how is it like when you come face to face? I mean, I'm not sure how close you've probably been to a shark or something along those lines. I mean, I say the word shark because that's what a lot of us fear. And we have, this thing about sharks. I mean, I know they're not as dangerous as people make them out to be, and they're just doing what other predators do, just looking for food.
Yeah.
But have you ever encountered anything that's probably frightened you or shook you up?
I've been really fortunate. I haven't had any scary experiences in the water. Animals do definitely sneak up on you underwater because it's so peaceful and tranquil under there. And when you're so focused or looking around when something catches your eye, you're pretty much looking at that, and you've got your blinkers on, and some things do sneak up from behind you and give you a fright, but they're just really curious, and it's just makes it all more worth the while. Lots of fun.
Blinkers, what are they, like some sort of indicators? Is there like a radar or something that reads what's around you, or are you just
like horse blinkers? Yeah, they put them on the horses to keep them
so
looking straight. Yes. So sometimes when you wear a mask, so I prefer to wear a dark skirted mask, so it allows the light to channel through and you don't get much reflection in the viewfinder when you're in your camera. So when you're looking through it, you can't really see, it narrows your view.
Yeah.
So you can't really see out too wide. So animals do come along and like give you a little bit of a fright every now and then.
How deep are we talking?
If on scuba?
Yeah. Well, no, in general, I mean, obviously scuba has its limits, doesn't it? But in general, do you go a bit deeper as well? I'm assuming, because some of the images that I did see seem to be quite low down. You've got one image on your website, which is, I think, of like a wreck of like a boat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's on the ocean bed, obviously. But how deep are you going? And so adrenaline get rushing as you go deeper and deeper, thinking what's going to happen, what am I going to see, and I'm getting excited thinking about it. Wow.
No, I think the deeper I go, the calmer I am, because it just is so peaceful. And I don't really tend to go too deep, especially because otherwise there's no light. And it's quite harder to take a photograph. And the activity under the water too, the deeper you go, there's less critters. So there's a lot of life, between the surface and say 20, 25 meters that will keep you occupied for, until you run out of air in your tank, a good couple of hours.
Wow.
For sure. Mm.
That's phenomenal. So about the actual image itself, I mean, I don't know much about marine life and such, so I'm not quite sure what the sleeping routine or pattern is of animals and fish and whales and stuff. Was this one that was taken at night while the whale was sleeping in this one, right? Or was it taken during the day, but you were darker because it was lower down?
It was taken during the day, so just after noon.
Right. So the whale was just having
and it was. Yes, no, they tend to sleep whenever they like, really. I mean, at the beginning of the season, the mothers have arrived all the way from Antarctica, so they would, and then they've given birth, so they would be exhausted. And they can sleep wherever they like. They find somewhere a bit quiet. Well, this one was a little bit in the deep. And she was sleeping very nice and shallow, so about maybe 20 meters, and then she would slowly rise to the top completely vertical, and she'd leave for the last couple of minutes of her breath cycle. She would leave her nose out of the water just a little bit, whether, I don't know, to check the temperature or something, don't know. She just had this habit of rising up straight and then onto her belly and then back down again. And she would be sleeping under for about 17 to 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is this how they tend to sleep? I mean, the angle that you got the fish at, the whale at, was obviously, like I said, was upright. It just seems, I mean, I just assume fish slept this way, or is it just that this one felt a bit adventurous and thought, I'm going to sleep on my, I don't know how she's sleeping on her side or back. I don't know. Is that something that they tend to do? Or is it just this one
was very
not there?
That's right. No, she was very unique. This one, a lot of them do sleep horizontally on their bellies.
Imagine, because that's how they tend to swim and whatnot. So you just think they just go stand still and that's it. They just sleep.
Yes. But I guess they're much like us. We probably have our favourite spots that we sleep on our back or on our sides, and we have observed humpbacks that have slept like she has, with her tail down, her fluke down and her nose up. Yeah. We've seen ones that sleep completely opposite, especially with nose down at 45-degree angles, even ones that have slept in shallow water on the sand on their side. And then you can imagine, like, they probably have their drool dripping out from the side of their mouth because they're just sleeping on the side on the sand in the current. And it's just hilarious when you're so lucky to find one like that. It's just completely hilarious to watch.
I could imagine a big baby just like drooling all over the place, and it's just going to go up on water, isn't it? So you get tempted.
It's definitely when you jump in the water and you swim on over and you can see that, it's such a shock, and it's so funny to be able to see an animal like this that has, I guess, compared to a lot of animals, the whales, they don't really have much facial expression because their face and their eyes are on their separate side of their heads. They don't really have lips. They don't frown or anything like that, but they always have this upturned smile, and yet they're so expressive. And it's, they really have a whole bunch of character.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you actually went and you were on the day when you went, was you thinking that I'm going to go out and try get this picture, or were you just like another day, just carrying on and, oh, look, there's an opportunity and you just, seize the moment? How was it? Talk us through that process.
Yeah. Oh, well, when I'm throughout the season, we're in the water about 54 days swimming with whales. So and it's never repetitive because every single day is different. And so I always have my camera with me because you just never know what moment the whale's going to give you. And it's not I don't go in the water with a mind saying that I'm going to take a picture, because there are times where I hop in the water and I'm so gobsmacked by whatever's happening in front of me that I forget to actually take a shot, and I'm like, oh my God, totally forgot. That was so beautiful. I didn't even take a picture, because you're just so, yes, you get so absorbed into the moment. And we have guests with us as well, and so we're making sure it's like, oh, did you see that? Did you see that? That was so exciting. But this one was so peaceful watching them. It was just, yeah, really nice. I was really hoping that I would be able to capture the moment that was in front of us, and give it justice in the photo. And it just turned out really nice.
Nice. No, you're being modest. Nice. No, let's use the right words over here.
I mean, seeing it in real time was a lot better than what the photo could ever present. But I'm really happy that that you could get some feeling and get some sort of intensity from it. It was really great.
As you can see, I'm one of those kind of talk. I like to print my work, and just like when you see your own work in print rather than on a screen, it just brings you so much joy and so much pride. I think, wow, I took that, now it's finally done. Are you going to hopefully do something like that? Blow it up and put it up in your print room, so whenever somebody comes in, they can see it? Spend all of the money on a huge, ginormous, a really nice something,
Well, I definitely love to see the photos printed. Like you said, it just really finalizes that moment and just makes it real. There's a lot of photos definitely that are on hard drives, and I don't know, just seeing it on the screen is just not, it doesn't seem real enough until you actually print it.
That's cool.
And when you look at it up on the wall, it just, adds that extra touch to it. And today we actually printed the first test proof today, so I can't wait to see that. And that I'm really excited to see that one. Yeah.
How big is the test print? Is it just a small proof, or is it an actual big size test print?
No, it's like A3.
It's an A3. That's this one. These are A3s. Yeah. Tiny, but they are. I'm going to come back to the whale for a second. So how far were you from the whale? Obviously, you're careful not to disturb it, just like you do any wildlife and nature photography. But obviously, things work differently, underwater. Your gravity, sound, movements, vibrations, blah blah blah. So what's your general rule when you tell your guests to stay away from wildlife the best you can? Obviously, some can't prevent, because some want to come close to you and want to swim by you. You're not going to try to move away because you're scared. But for this one that was sleeping, so you spotted the whale, and then I'm going to assume you waited at a distance for your moment to capture the shot. Roughly how far?
Yes, that's right.
It was this one, because whales are ginormous, right?
Yeah, they're pretty much the size of a bus. So this one was, I don't know, probably about 15 meters long.
Is that big? Yeah. For a whale, is that big?
Oh, they can get a little bit bigger. Yeah. But she was the reason why this one looks so big is because she's a female, and she's quite, how do I put this, voluptuous for a whale, because she just had a baby.
Okay, yeah, I get
so she was really, really round, but definitely very, very beautiful mum. Yeah.
How do you manage to expose, and I'm not going to necessarily compose, but how do you manage to expose underwater with it being dark?
With it being dark?
Yeah.
Well, when the clouds started rolling, yes. So I just use auto ISO.
Oh, so then it just
under the water. Yeah, because moments happen under the water, especially with the whales, so quickly that you just don't know what's going to happen with the clouds, because you're so busy watching under the water. If you have something rather stationary and it's quite dark, then and if you don't need to keep on swimming around the place, then yeah, and if you have time, sure, you can manually set your ISO. I do that often too, or change your shutter speed. But the less that you can do underwater will save you a lot more time.
Of course, it's just like sports photography. You can carry on focusing on the job rather than focus on the technicality of the camera and stuff.
Yeah.
So you're using an underwater housing, I'm going to presume. Well, not presume, but you definitely are. I don't see a
Yes.
waterproof camera made just yet. Which one is it?
Yes.
What does it look like?
Oh, we have a Nauticam housing.
Right.
I find that the most ergonomic, and that I can actually reach all the levers with my fingers, because there's a couple of housings out there that the buttons are way too hard to push, and I mean, I can't reach all around the place. And it's also quite a decent weight. It's about 7 kilos with the camera.
It's nothing, is it really? Just so free flowing and stuff. Yeah. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, you still got to drag it through.
How long have you been doing this for? When did you start actually? Did the photography come first, or did the diving, the love for scuba come first and underwater?
I guess I've always taken some photos, but never really seriously. And like everybody, you just go on holidays and you take some snapshots here and there and everything. But I was very serious about my scuba. So I guess scuba came first. And I spent a lot of my weekends doing scuba diving and kept it fun. And I was always jealous of all these people that were diving and taking photos at the same time. But they never looked really comfortable in the water. And they were always chasing away all the animals. So it was something definitely that I wanted to do, but I thought, I didn't know if I could do both or whether it was really worth doing both.
I'm just going to share this. I'm just going to share my screen and show this picture. Now, I want to ask is, here we can see, that's a shark. We can clearly tell by the silhouette, and there's about 3 of them there. Jaws comes back to mind there straight away. So you're obviously you're not very far. No. But you're not very far. And there's a diver that's, somebody's probably with you on your team who's going closer. How are you not scared?
No, not scared. You can tell by the behavior that they're just swimming around, watching. And I guess they're as interested in us as what we are of them. And that was actually at sunset. Wow. At one of the islands off the coast of Australia here. And it was so exciting. We were surrounded by 20 and 30 Galapagos sharks just cruising around, watching us.
Sorry,
first it started off with a couple.
You said 20 or 30 sharks. Is that what you just said?
Yes. Yeah. And they had that one really big one came in, and it had little entourage of a few others, and they just came in, had a look, and just kept swimming like they were too good to hang around with us. It was a really awesome evening.
I mean, there's these other ones like I'm just gonna go see if I can quickly find it again. That one, that is just, I mean, I can't really find words to express what I'm feeling when I just even look at this. It's like I'm looking at it on my little monitor, and I can feel like I'm already there to an extent. And I can imagine seeing that in print. It would really make me feel like I'm underneath it. When your hair kind of come up on your arm with excitement, it's like, how do you do this? I mean, I really would love to get to do this, but at the same time, I'm so petrified and so scared. Not only of the water, there with sharks, I'd be like, forget the camera. I'm getting out of here. So, credit where credit is due. So well done. Seriously, well done for being able to do this. I don't know many photographers who can, and I do know a lot of photographers.
Wow, thank you.
Probably one of 2 people who I know who get this close to this kind of species. Does it kind of like, when I don't want to get too deep into this. It's a slightly sensitive subject, but when you see documentaries of animal cruelty and how people treat sharks and stuff like this, does it ever how does it feel when you see them in real life and stuff? Does it feel lucky to an extent that you can document and show people that they're not as nasty as people make them out to be, that Jaws isn't really true?
Yes, I do. I feel really lucky to be able to. I mean, you do have to approach them and I guess swim with them with great respect. I don't encourage anybody like swimming towards them
Mm.
or putting their hands out towards them or touching them or anything like that, because they are predators and they do have instinctive nature, and they do not have they don't have fingers to be able to touch or to feel. They use their teeth to be able to do that. So unlike yourself, if you go, oh, that's really cool, and if you want to try something out, you automatically put your hand out, they can't do that. They use their teeth to do that. And it's unfortunate that,
I don't.
you know, they, yes, yes, that's right.
Again,
So, I mean, yeah.
sorry.
I guess like with any animal, whether it's marine or terrestrial, if you head directly towards them in a direct line, they're going to be on the defense straight away. Yeah. So especially with marine animals, you don't want them swimming away.
It's a bit like forest life. We have to respect the fact that we're now in their domain. This is now, it's their world, really. So by doing this, we are invading their private life or their home life or whatever. And obviously we don't know what they're thinking, but like you said earlier on, they're just as curious as we are. And this is probably because, you know, they don't obviously see enough, and they're like, what is he doing in my backyard, or whatever they are really in his front room, whatever. And they just want to come and say, oh, kind of thing, isn't it really? But I'm just going to share a few more because I just absolutely love the colors that you can see down here as well. So there's this image over here. And you can see, I just love how they're segregated to an extent, but yet they're all together. So you see all the red ones just coming. I mean, I'm not sure what they are, so I'm going to describe them by colors, unfortunately. And then you get all these just going in a certain direction. When you're capturing this sort of image, what's going through your head at the moment? Are you fascinated with what's happening there and then, or are you curious to know where they're going? Because they all seem to be like, guys, there's a party over here, let's go. It's not like just one, they're all kind of going in that direction. I mean, even the ones up here are going there. Are you curious where they're heading?
Yes, I was very, like, this was on a really big lettuce coral head, and like you said, there was a whole bunch of colors swimming there and grouped into their own color, yet they were all together, and they let me swim right in between them, and it was so much fun. They weren't swimming off anywhere, and after spending some time with them, you notice that they was kind of swimming in the current. So the current was swaying a little bit, and they would swim over to the current together, and then they would swim back to the current together. It was, it's really nice.
Is there something like this where you can see this is kind of a small curve forming, and you can see how they're heading in one direction, but they're coming from different ways? I mean, just the middle both of them. Wow, it's quite breathtaking.
Big schools of barracuda. They're really interesting. Like, a lot of people think that fish, I guess, aren't that intelligent.
Yeah.
But when you get a big school kind of curious, and I'm not sure which one's like the leader of the pack or anything like that there, but when they come along and they swim towards you, and they swim by kind of looking at you, and then they make this formation, and then they've gone, oh yeah, you're not that interesting, and then they start swimming away. They make some really awesome patterns, but when they actually notice you and they start swimming towards you, it's really, really great to see.
So what they're doing, they're just trying to get to know what's going on, isn't it, really?
That is, that's right.
These ones, they don't seem to know which way they're going. They're all confused. I just love the way that image is all balanced and done. It's just absolutely phenomenal. What are these? They just look like mini sharks.
Some people call them trevally or jacks. They're just a really big school that came up from the bottom, curious. I just love how they come out of like the edge of visibility. And it was such a nice, sunny day. And the interesting about these ones was that when you turned your back, they would swim up right behind you. And then as soon as you turned around, they would turn around and face the other way like they weren't looking at you at all.
So
So I do have...
it literally is where they are creeping up behind you, like you just said earlier on, and then when you see them, they're like, "Oh no, we're not here. Over here. We're minding our own business on this side."
Yes. Yes, that's right. I have photos of the people that were swimming with me with them right up against their backs. But as soon as they turn around, everyone turns around and faces the other way. It's like, what? I wasn't looking at you. Yeah, so they really do have personalities in the water.
Coming back to a little bit about camera, what camera gear do you actually use for this? Are you using your conventional DSLRs that we tend to use up here on land, or are you using something totally different?
No, using your conventional one. So at the moment, I'm using a 5D Mark IV. I've been using that for probably like two or 3 years now. Yeah, I haven't upgraded to anything yet, but I find that it works just fine for me, and it fits. I don't want to get too heavy because excess luggage is a really big thing when traveling around the place. Got to carry a lot of gear around. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
And I can see it. I don't know if it's one of your favorite lenses, but I mean, looking at some of your images, you've got a fairly fisheye effect on most of them, which kind of works really well, you know, given you're taking images of fishes using a fisheye.
Yeah.
Are you using that mostly because of the effect, or are you actually trying to capture everything around you?
Yes, I like I'm a bit partial to a lot of space in my pictures. And also, just so I can fit a whale in the frame, you need a really wide lens. And that's the widest lens that I can get. And I do really like the effect as well of the circle that you can get with a fisheye.
Yeah. On
a full frame. So I tend to use a 16-35 or the 8-15 quite a lot. When I'm in Norway, though, I can use 24 like prime because it's quite dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also 16-35, just so you can zoom in. It gives you a bit more flexibility with the options.
When you've seen a huge whale and you've ever seen it and you go, wow, that is huge. It's going to be like a dumb question, but I'm going to have to ask it because it does honestly jog my mind. It's like, do you not ever get scared? Like, you know, when you see these videos of when they open their mouths and all the water seems to like just submerge inside. If you were to ever get stuck in that current, you obviously probably can't outswim that. What would ever happen? Obviously,
you can swim. You can definitely feel the water moving for sure. I have been in that situation where the whales have, in Norway, where the whales have come up from underneath and they've eaten the fish, the bait ball around you. They actually wouldn't, they've got such a small throat size, so they wouldn't even be able to swallow you. And they're so intelligent that they're very spatially aware. So it's like, have you ever been to Vietnam or Thailand when you've got to cross the busy street? Well, they've got so much traffic on the road, and you just have to take that step and just keep moving in that one direction, and all the cars will miss you. So you need to be, I guess, still and calm in the water. As long as you're not swimming all over the place and getting in everybody's way, the whale will definitely be able to know exactly where you are, and then you won't be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
So Jasmine, that was great. So tell me, what are your plans now for the future, now that obviously you've won the grand prize of the greatest competition on planet Earth, so to speak? What are your plans now?
Well, I guess with COVID happening at the moment, within Queensland, especially here in Australia, our borders are still closed. So I guess within travelling around Australia, I really want to be able to get out back to Tonga this whale season to start collecting more data for the real whale research that we've already been collecting for the last few years. That'd be really great. It'd be sad if we had a gap in that, but if we had some sort of data for this season, that'd be awesome. But other than that, at the moment, we're a little bit in limbo with everything. So I'd really love to do some more local diving, get out in the water, but we really need to wait for our restrictions to ease up at the moment. It's a bit...
I mean, you mentioned going to Tonga and the whale data. What do you actually do with this data? Where does it go? Is it somewhere that people can actually see it, or is it just literally used for scientific purposes?
Well, we've been training staff, that we have some Tongan staff that help us out when we're there, and we've been educating them more about whale behaviour and whale research, and we're actually collecting data so that we can accurately have some information on, I guess, the whale swim industry, and if it has any impacts on what's the best practices, most effective way of being able to swim with the whales. So we'd like to have that base over a large year, like a large data set for that, before we can start analysing anything. And we also record whale songs that we give to whale researchers each season, and then they can track the different types of whale songs that are each season to see how that changes and what aspects of that changes within each song. So that's really important.
How do you record that? Go down with the cassette player and record?
Well, it's just through the housing, and mainly we use a hydrophone, and we put one in the water. Yeah. Otherwise, if the whales, if we don't unable to use a hydrophone, then we just do the sound through the housing, and we just film what's going on. Because if we can also film the song and the behaviour of the whale at the same time, that's really gives a deeper level of understanding of what's happening.
You know why they're doing it rather than, that makes sense. So obviously you mentioned COVID and how borders are closed now. So those people who are, probably needing some form of inspiration, you've obviously given us one with your fantastic images and the discussion we've had today. What further advice can you give to anybody who probably wants to get into sort of like marine photography or something along the lines as to what you do?
Oh yes, I'd recommend that they go down into their local area and do some shore dives or test out their gear, and see, even though some people say, but they dive at the same place all the time, but every time you go diving, it's always something different. So it's a challenge to yourself to be able to capture, I guess, what you perceive to be the same thing in a different way. Yeah. And that's really nice and challenging, especially because you're not going to see the same animal all the time when you're going. And if you're lucky that you do, try and watch it and observe it and see what else it does, because I'm sure that it does something different for you to capture.
So much to learn, so much to do, really, isn't there? Thank you so much for that, Jasmine. Thank you so much for your time, and once again, we wish you the best for the future. And we'll see if we can catch up in a couple of months' time and see how things are getting on, and maybe have some more just to share or something along those lines. Yeah.
Fantastic. No, that'll be great. Yes, thank you.
So much for your time.
Thanks very much.